Hey folks, this is a Christmas special and it is all the rare birds, well the best birds as well, that we've seen in 2023. Our birding year began in North Norfolk on a beach in some bitterly cold weather looking for shorelark. We did see a couple, but the footage wasn't great as the sun was still low. Amazing birds to see though. The next bird was a real star. Although quite mobile, we got really great views of this amazing Hume's leaf warbler, a visitor from Central and East Asia.
This bird was one of my favourite birds we've seen this year.
This next bird we picked up on a journey to Somerset. It's a very young and rough looking rose-coloured starling or rosy starling. When in adult plumage they're really stunning birds, but this one was a youngster. The next species was a visitor from America, a duck, an American widgeon. This one was quite tough to find, but when we found it, it was hiding in some reeds. Although a lifer at the time, we have seen two more this year. You'll see them later in the video. One was very special. The next bird, also a duck, was this brief view of a lesser scaup. Now to one of my favourite birds of the year, a ridiculously confiding Sabine's gull that was on the south coast. This bird was in full adult plumage and did not at all appear to be bothered by the human presence around it. Now back to ducks and closer to home on the North Wales coast. There were reports of a surf scoter, a sea duck from America. And after scanning the sea for a while, we were able to find it with the help of another birder. Also, there was the reasonably scarce velvet scoter alongside it, at close range too. Sticking on the theme of ducks, here's a female ring-necked duck that we caught up with in Durham. Back to North Wales and an absolute mega, the incredibly beautiful Bayakal teal. This bird was at quite a distance as you can see, but this is an extremely rare visitor that breeds in eastern Russia and winters in Japan and eastern China, so well out of its way. What a stunning duck, and another of my favourites for this year. And the last duck for now, this brief view of a male smew in Cheshire. At the end of March into the start of April, there were numerous reports in the UK of alpine swift, which is reasonably unusual, so we set out to try and find one of those. And near Manchester, we found one. Admittedly not the easiest subject to get decent footage of, but still an amazing bird. Now to the Wirral and to one of our regular haunts, RSPB Burton Mere wetlands, and this time another American visitor in the shape of a long-billed dowitcher. This transatlantic vagrant is a medium-sized wading bird and gave us pretty close views. Now back down south again, and this time another mega. This white-crowned sparrow from America showed really nicely in East Sussex and was viewed by many birders. Now to some birds that are slightly more common visitors, like this black-crowned night heron that was sitting in the back of some hanging trees. And at Snettisham in Norfolk, one of our own breeding birds, but one that has declined massively and dramatically in numbers. This is the turtle dove. We were lucky enough to get some brief views of this bird on some telegraph wires. Now back to American birds, and this time a blue-winged teal. This fantastic duck was showing at a little pool at RSPB Friesland Shore. Carrying on with some American water birds, and this time in Cumbria at Winfell Tarn. This hooded merganser stuck around for a few weeks and showed really nicely one early morning, and we were on our own, so we got the bird to ourselves. Excellent. Now to one of our favourite trips of the year, Suffolk. We went and saw a few birds that are British birds but are reasonably scarce in other parts of the country, like Dartford warbler, which showed lovely, this woodlark that had a mouthful of food, the nightingale here that was singing. This bird we took a few attempts to find, but it showed and sung beautifully.
This bird I really enjoyed seeing.
And the very scarce stone curlew, which was a wonderful bird to see wandering across some fields. we had an absolutely breathtaking experience sharing an evening with some hunting nightjars. On the return journey, with some advice from one of our subscribers, we nipped in to RSPB St Aidan's, where we got to see some black-necked grebe, which is stunning. The next species we had to travel to Spurn on the east coast to see, one of our favourite places. This bird is a great snipe and a visitor from Scandinavia and Russia. This particular bird was sat in some grass coming back into a small pool and was viewed by plenty of other birders. Excellent. Moving back to Cumbria, we had some awesome views of this fantastic little common rosefinch which hung around a Wildlife Trust garden for a few weeks.
This was my 400th bird on my life list.
And now an extremely imposing bird which we found in Cambridgeshire behind an industrial estate. This is a white stork, a huge black and white bird with a red beak and red legs. Let's get back to ducks and North American visitor again, another ring-necked duck. This one was a male bird that was in molt. A trip up to Scotland gave us some views of some more local birds up there, like the Slavonian grebe. These were breeding at a couple of locations, and then on to Mull, where we saw this fantastic white-tailed eagle at a distance in a tree. Although these are British breeding birds, I found them incredible and quite imposing. Now another mega. This is another visitor from America, a Forster's tern. This individual spent many months around RSPB Arn, Brownsea Island and generally Poole Harbour area. It did take us 2 attempts to locate this bird, but when we found it, it was really confiding and a great bird to see. The next one, still a visitor from America, is a wading bird, a pectoral sandpiper, and one of a couple we have seen in the UK. This individual in Yorkshire being particularly confiding, coming really close to the hide so we could get some great footage of it. Excellent. And then on the trip back, we got this lovely red-necked phalarope that was busy, as phalaropes usually are, swimming round and catching insects. It's now time to pick out, I think, my favourite bird of the year. This is an absolute mega that should be somewhere in tropical waters. Instead, it was in Cleveland, on the northeast coast of the UK. This is a brown booby. Much to birders' glee, it stuck around for a few weeks and gave some incredible views, perching on this derelict pier on some of the buoys in the estuary. This particular individual is apparently a female, who's very lost. Moving on to the white-rumped sandpiper, which again is a visitor from the States, and this is a small wader. We caught up with this in Lincolnshire at RSPB Frampton Marsh. We'd been twice, and on the second attempt we managed to get it, which was amazing. I'll move now on to some geese, and firstly the lesser white-fronted goose. We found this sleeping individual at RSPB Swillington Ings in Yorkshire. Although we watched it for some time, it stayed roosting with its head under its wings. To be honest, we weren't surprised because the weather was pretty terrible. The next one is a ruddy shelduck. These two were at quite a distance among a flock of geese on a trip to Northumberland whilst we were looking for the next bird, which again was at a distance but was a red-breasted goose. This bird stuck around for a couple of weeks, but unfortunately we couldn't get very close to it as it was in a very mobile flock of barnacle geese. The following bird we got really close to, which was a lesser yellowlegs back at RSPB Frampton Marsh. This was possibly one of the most confiding birds I've seen this year. This one walking directly in front of the hide, just a few feet away from the birders. That was amazing. Now onto some warblers.
These next two warblers were absolutely amazing to see.
First one was a Pallas's warbler. I had seen one of these birds earlier in the year but didn't get any really good footage. This bird, although brief, was very showy. The next bird at the same location at Flamborough Head was a two-barred warbler. This is a mega, and we were lucky enough to be present on the day it arrived. The last of the warblers in this area was a dusky warbler. Unfortunately, the footage I've got is absolutely terrible. This bird was flitting among a lot of foliage to the point where we knew what it was because a lot of birders told us, but I didn't get really clear views, just little fleeting glimpses of it as it passed through the undergrowth. The bird we were there for wasn't any of these. This was a real mega, a red-headed bunting. This bird, an extremely rare visitor from Central Asia, stayed around the area for a few weeks and was well viewed by a lot of birders. This individual was a juvenile, so wasn't showing any of its adult colours. Now to one of the most memorable evenings of this year. A trip to Stone Creek in East Yorkshire provided us with views of this lovely rough-legged buzzard. These birds are reasonably scarce visitors to the UK. This individual, a youngster, stayed at a distance but sat on the top of a tree conspicuously. Other birds in the area included some short-eared owls, but I was really taken aback by the amazing views I was able to get of hen harriers. These birds, although they are a British species, are declining radically in numbers and are the most intensely persecuted bird in the UK. Seeing them at this range seemed like an amazing privilege. On to our second American widgeon of the year, this one at Kilnsea Wetlands. It took some scanning to find amongst some other widgeon, but eventually I found it. Also in the same area we were able to see this common or mealy redpoll that Kaylee spotted, feeding along a fence line. Some reasonably local birding on the Wirral produced this great northern diver that remained at West Kirby Marine Lake for a few days, and on to another couple of reasonably scarce winter visitors. Firstly, the Buick swan. This species is similar to our winter visiting hooper swan, but much smaller with a little less yellow on the bill. Now on to a smaller winter visitor, the snow bunting. This amazingly confiding individual gave us some great views at RSPB Minsmere. Back to megas again, and this time another American visitor, a canvasback. This bird, I believe, is still present at Abberton Reservoir in Essex. This duck is reasonably similar to our native pochard, and as it was amongst thousands of pochards, was a bit of a task to find. Luckily, a fellow birder and one of our subscribers managed to pick it out. What an eagle-eyed chap. Back to a reasonably local bit of birding and on to our favourite sea watching spot, Llandulus, where we saw this lovely red-throated diver up close. Excellent. Now, more American ducks, this time a green-winged teal that showed up in Lancashire. We travelled an hour or so to see this and were super happy to get it, and even happier to learn it was a separate species from our Eurasian teal. One of my favourite birds next, the waxwing. These winter visitors generally turn up on the east coast, but occasionally a year comes where they disperse more widely across the country. This was one of those years, and they went as far west as Ireland, but we saw these not too far from where we live in North Wales. Sticking to North Wales, but this time in Anglesey, an extremely special bird turned up. Our third American widgeon of the year, but this one is an interesting mutation. One in every between 500 and 1,000 birds shows a white head instead of a grey head. These are nicknamed storm widgeon. And to get not only an American widgeon in the UK, which is reasonably rare, but to get one with this rare mutation was unfathomable, and we felt very lucky to witness this rare event. Now on to our last bird of the year. This one was in Liverpool at Crosby Marine Lake. This was our last UK diver to be seen and was a black-throated diver. This individual, although actively feeding and mobile around the lake, did give me some amazing views, and we were super happy to tick it off our list. There were a few birds I haven't mentioned that we didn't get footage of that were still amazing, like the magnolia warbler, a mega visitor from America. Also, we got to see a king eider at a hell of a distance, And finally, one of my favourite bits of the year on our Suffolk trip, we got to hear a golden oriole singing. We didn't see it, but we heard it. 2023 was a real birding roller coaster with many birds and a few disappointments. Also, towards the end, our trusty van broke down. So hopefully we'll get that repaired soon and be back on the road. Thank you everybody for your support over the year. All of you who've watched and subscribed, and the few people we've met on our journeys. We appreciate your support immensely. Thanks for watching, folks. That was all of our best birds of this year. In 2023, we saw 231 species. Kaylee saw 232 because she saw a very special bird, which is her personal favourite. What was it?
Firecrest. It's my absolute favourite bird of the year.
I didn't see it, unfortunately, so I need to find it this year. We have massive plans for 2024, so keep with us. And in the meantime, thanks for watching. Please like,
Please subscribe,
and please press the notification bell. And Merry Christmas!